What's up? You're an ecom guy or girl and you want to kick your email agency, or you're just a dropshipper who basically has heard in some Discord from someone that emails are pretty powerful. Spoiler, they are. If you're in one of these or both of these, I got you, because I'm going to walk you through everything, every flow, every campaign type that you need to know about. Everything I talk about in this video is not only based off of my results, but across looking at over 30 Klaviyo accounts. But I'm not here to waste your time, so let's get into it. If your LTV right now, your lifetime value of each customer equals your AOV, emails won't save you, okay? It's not a life raft. Email campaigns and flows work super well if your backend is set up properly. However, and this is really important, this is not the key point. This is not the thing which is going to get people to buy again ultimately. The number one thing which is going to get people to buy again is your product quality. Now, if you have people coming back and buy again and everyone's satisfied, then plugging in emails and actually maximizing those will have a big effect on your business. But it's not going to have that big of an effect if you just stop caring about your customers the second that they buy, okay? And that is the biggest mistake, especially dropshippers make that mistake, but also a lot of e-com brands do this. Now, the first thing that I would actually focus on is making a really good post-purchase experience, right? So order tracking has to be perfect and it shouldn't say Yoon Express. And obviously also top customer support, really important, okay? You have to just reply very quickly to every single email, maybe even have like a call center somewhere, right? Okay, very important, crucial. If you don't have that, once again, you're going to get a lot of chargebacks, and once again, emails are not going to save you. And then at the end of the day, your packaging. Think about how Apple does it. Think about how much thought and effort Apple like puts when it, for example, just when you unbox an iPhone, how that feels like, right? Like it almost feels like it's better than the phone itself. Like it's insane. And so this is really important. And if you look at the biggest brands, they've all figured this out, right? Amazon, like, you know, look at an Amazon package and you think of quality. Think about how important your packaging actually is for the next time that you actually sell a product on your store, and the product quality itself. So obviously, first of all, your product has to actually work, and if it's a consumable or something, it just has to feel and even taste good if it has a taste, right? And all these things are super important. Now, if all these things are given and you have fast shipping, then emails are a very good option for you to make a lot of money. And essentially, if you get everyone to buy multiple times, you can just blast money into Facebook and not even look at your ROAS so much upfront, and just like be profitable still, okay? Very powerful. Now, because you can't just guess this and then throw everything in a wall and see what sticks, you should actually send out surveys every 30 days to reduce the returns, but obviously to figure out exactly what people want more of. So for example, you could say, okay, well, you find out your product tastes better, your packaging is terrible, right? People can't track their orders properly. All these things you can fix and you can find out in the first place by asking your customers directly. Most powerful life hack for every e-com brand out there, right? And then obviously you have to figure out what is your optimal second purchase product, right? Because for every single product out there, there's an optimal second purchase product in every niche. And like, there's no way that you can find something which is sellable again, right? For every single customer of yours. If you can't, then you just haven't done enough research, right? Or just haven't given it enough of a thought, right? So what is it? How can I make them want it faster? These two questions you got to ask yourself mainly, and not only ask yourself, but once again, ask your customers. Ask them, what do you need? What do you still need? Ask them if they're still using it. For example, if you call them up, ask them if they're still using it, and then ask them, like, what would you need extra, like maybe even a consumable to make it easier to use to get the dream outcome more quickly. Ask them, right? Do research, whatever. Look at competitor brands who are scaling super hard, and essentially figure out these things before you launch your emails. Now, the second that you have this figured out, and the second you get people to come back and buy again, but it's just not good enough, that's when the email flows come into play, right? So before we start looking at campaigns and everything, and like looking at, okay, how do we get everyone to buy 100 different times? We just want to have some flows and separate them within a funnel. So you can imagine your whole email system and your whole leads, like entire leads essentially, entire lead system as a funnel. And so people up here obviously need completely different messaging and different marketing than people down here. This applies to your ads, this applies to everything, but especially this applies to your emails. And so especially think about it this way: if someone just abandons your website visit essentially, but you still get their email address, they're going to be a lot colder of a person than someone that abandons checkout who's almost purchased, and obviously a lot colder than someone who already bought from you once, right? So let's say this is the sale here. Let's say someone already bought. Well, you still can get them to buy 100 more times. You just need to figure out how. But it's like completely different how you would speak to a person like that than to a person up here. And so that is really important to understand before we get into these flows. Now, the first flow that you're going to set up is the welcome flow. Welcome flows are very powerful, and oftentimes like the most revenue bringing flow ever. And that's just like basically whenever you get the email address from someone that just is in there. It doesn't matter if it's a purchase, an abandoned cart, abandoned checkout, abandoned site, a thank you, whatever. Okay, whenever you get someone's email address, and especially I love doing this with pop-ups, then basically this is like, then you can just send out an email like a welcome flow, and it just nurtures the leads so much. It just makes you a lot more money immediately if you do this. Like, just look at a template. Again, like this, don't overcomplicate your emails. You can chat GPT them, you can split test them, you can pick templates on Klaviyo. Like, it's very simple to set up something like this. But essentially, after that, you're going to start segmenting and structuring the different abandoned stuff. So for example, let's say someone, enters their email address in a pop-up, but hasn't even added to cart yet. Well, then you know, okay, well, that person is pretty cold, but they abandoned the site. And so and so there's specific flows on your store, on your Klaviyo account for abandoned site actions, events, right? Then same thing for cart and same thing for checkout. Okay. So I'm going to get into, what exactly you say in each and how exactly you do create urgency, but let's just put this out there and let's just, keep this in mind. Now, after someone has already had these abandoned flows here, right? Then let's say they bought, now they're getting a thank you flow, right? So thank you email is very important, oftentimes actually getting people to buy again if you do it properly. And then if you've been running your flows for a longer period of time, you want to do two things. You want to disqualify and you want to win back, right? So what that means is you disqualify means like you actually send out emails like, oh, we miss you, oh, what happened, blah, blah, blah. And if people still don't open those emails, you just remove them automatically from your Klaviyo because it's going to be cheaper to send out all those mass emails, especially if you have tens of thousands of customers at some point, tens of thousands of leads at some point, right? Same thing for win back. If you've not had someone buy in the recent time, but they open emails, they kind of engage with you, maybe, get them like into the middle of funnel overall, also in your ads, but they just don't buy again, then you can be more aggressive and more like, once again, lower in the funnel and actually talk to them, send them different kind of emails than for this kind of person, right? So these flows are all possible, are super important. And now let's actually take a look at what types of campaigns I like to run and what types of campaigns even there are. Okay, so there are 3 different types of email campaigns that actually can make you a lot of money. First one, and obviously one which makes the most money, is a sale. You have a launch and you have a bestseller email campaign. So a sale is essentially something, obviously this, like an offer focused email at some special occasion. So it doesn't have to be an event like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, holiday, summer sale. It doesn't have to be all this type of stuff. So it doesn't have to be that. It can also be, you can also just make something up like brand birthday or something like that, right? You can make everything up, or you can just say, oh, this weekend, blah, 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 or in May, in June, for no reason, right? You can just always do a urgency point to it, add an urgency factor, and just give a really crazy sale for everyone. So campaigns, everyone gets campaigns. Like all people who have bought 10 times, the people who have just abandoned the site, everyone gets them, right? Second thing is a launch, obviously, especially focusing on existing customers, but obviously people also abandon their checkout. So pretty warm bottom of funnel emails here. But new product launches are probably the best way to make a lot of money. Again, to scroll up here to kind of walk you through this, optimal second purchase product. If you know it, if you launch it and actually test it like that, then already, first of all, validating product market fit for that product, and essentially then even launching ads on Facebook for that product. But that's a different topic. Essentially, product launch emails also usually make a lot of money if it actually makes sense for your existing customers or abandoned checkouts to actually go ahead and buy once again. And the same thing you're going to be doing on your bestsellers, okay? So bestsellers is something obviously we're just like send out regularly. Once in a while, you just send out like a discount code for your best sellers. All right, very, very, very powerful, and this is how you do it. Now, what's very important for this whole thing here, right, for all campaign types is segmentation, and I'm gonna write it down here because I think it's super important. Now, what exactly does this mean? Segmentation means that you're separating demographics within each campaign. Okay, so that means, for example, let's say you do a sale, but you have customers who are male and female. Now, what you can do is set up separate, different campaign emails for women and separate ones for men. And if you send them out, basically it doesn't take a lot of time to do that. Like, it just takes 10 minutes to set it up. But then is obviously everyone who gets those emails is going to be a lot more engaged with everything. And this is probably the most important thing when it comes to campaigns. This is how you increase the open rate and the conversion rate in every single email of yours. Also, by the way, applicable to the flows that you have. Now, like with pretty much everything, honestly, with emails especially, you can split test a lot of stuff, and you need to split test a lot of stuff in order to find something which actually hits and actually works, right? Because usually whenever you start split tests, like whenever you start making your flows, especially in the beginning, like let's say you set up some welcome flows and some abandoned checkout flows, right? People call that like email marketing. People, like, there's so much more, as you can see here, than just your abandoned checkout flows. Of course, maybe it's enough when you test a product as a dropshipper. For sure, it's not bad if you have it, but at the end of the day, it's just deeper than just saying, oh, it doesn't work for me, right? It doesn't work like that. You need to kind of like figure out these basics that you need to have before actually getting into email marketing, and then actually have a proper solid setup with A/B tests going on. And so specifically, what you can A/B test when it comes to your emails are going to be the subjects, so like the headlines, obviously, and then, obviously the hook, and then basically the call to action in terms of like, what kind of discount code they get if they buy now or whatever, right? The button or just the whole design, essentially. I mean, you could split test a lot of stuff. The biggest change though is going to be the open rate, optimize it for the open rate. So essentially kind of just improving on the headline, improving on the subject to get more people to open it. Now, conversion rates is really just like basically depending on, like, first of all, obviously what type of funnel level you're working at. So if it's like getting someone to buy again, it actually makes sense. It will convert a lot better than for a, abandoned site flow. Abandoned site is like, you don't want to immediately convert them. You essentially just want to get them one step down the funnel. So an abandoned site email, for example, you would send them maybe to a product page, right? And then for a product page, maybe send them, let's say abandoned cart, you would probably send them to the checkout once again. Then the checkout, like same thing pretty much, you just send them to checkout again with a discount code. So essentially giving one more incentive to actually, or make it one step easier for them to buy, because if you just remind them, it seems to be, or it tends to be, not enough to actually make it work, right? So obviously thank you is super important, thank you flows, because like, first of all, it's the very first impression. First of all, it's the very first impression after someone bought. And as you know, after someone buys, it's the most, like, by far, the most emotional state they're ever going to have your customers in. So think about it this way. If they get an email, like a super customized, perfect, segmented email, also segmented by genders and maybe even ages and countries where they're from, everything like that, like, imagine how much that incentivizes them to buy again at some point in the future, right? So it's insane. And then this disqualify and win back thing is really just there to actually get people to actually make the list, keep the list warm, right? Only with warm leads, and obviously win back to get people who haven't been engaging with you recently, getting them to actually buy again, getting them to come back and repurchase. And so, you need to do the flows at least, right? If you don't have a campaign set up, no problem. Honestly, you can make a lot of money with welcome flows, with flows overall too, but keep all these in mind and try to have pop-ups. For example, when someone, only spends like a minute on your site and leaves, that is a very big incentive to actually send them a welcome, or like to show them a pop-up and then send them a welcome flow. Because like already, if someone spends more than a minute on your store, like, what the hell are they doing, right? Why haven't they added to cart, checkout and bought yet, right? It's like a lot of time, like it's kind of a lot of time. I mean, you could do 2 minutes depending on how much text you have, how long your sales cycles usually are. Some products just need more explanation and just like more of a, it's a bigger decision, especially if you're higher ticket than usual. But especially with like very post-purchasey, super cheap products, it's just super important to get people very quickly. And so if they haven't added to cart within a minute, then just show them a pop-up, or even like 30 seconds, right? Really quickly show them pop-up. You could also, for example, show them the pop-up after they add it to cart, but they'll limit the people that will see that, for example. So that is really important too. And then obviously every pop-up you have in every email has to actually give them a reason so that they do the stuff which you want them to do, right? So the pop-up might say, hey, do you want a discount code in your first purchase, right? Obviously every single human being on earth will want that, right? Why wouldn't they want to save money? So that's a big incentive to actually give them an email. And then you send, if you say, for example, oh, we're only going to send the secret code, like the discount code, to your email, then that will also incentivize them to not put in a fake email address, right? So all these small things you can optimize, but it's really important to do it. And so really just going back to the basics, actually having a good customer experience overall is going to make or break your email marketing, right? It doesn't matter, kind of what I feel like is email marketing agencies are trying to fix something which is, not really broken. It's like they're trying to, their emails are fine. Like emails, you can make a lot of money retargeting people, for example, with emails, if your experience is really, really good. If your customer experience is terrible, you will have a very hard life, even if everything right here on this side is perfectly built out and split tested and everything. Let's say this is like optimized. If your customer experience is bad, what is email going to be? Like 5 to 10%. If your customer experience is amazing, and this is very basic, the emails, you're going to make like 20 to 30% only through emails. And so that is insane. Like emails have an insane potential. But yeah, overall, that was pretty much it for this video, guys. I hope you could learn a thing or two. If yes, then write your main takeaway into the comments. I think it's super interesting to see. Thank you so much for giving me your most important asset, which is your attention. And I wish you a beautiful day.